Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I am on board with Texas in Color. I am truly honored to welcome a very special guest today, someone whose leadership and impact has been felt deeply within our community and the state. Frederick Nickens, you are a leader and a passionate advocate within the Democratic Party who has timelessly worked and made a significant impact on the Black community and beyond. Your leadership in Texas continues to be the best that we have ever seen so far. The things that you're doing is just outstanding, and I am honored to have you on this morning.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. First, I give all glory to God because I don't do anything without God's presence in my life. That's first and foremost. And thank you for hosting the show. It's much needed that we have a platform here in Texas that allows for voices to be heard. Thank you.
Okay. Introduce yourself and let the audience know and share a bit about your journey and the work you're doing.
Well, let's see. Well, I'm originally from New York City. I spent 23 years in the United States Army. Me and my wife both retired. I have 5 kids, 7 grandkids. I'm an educator by trade, but I do this and I say I do the political stuff and the activist stuff because I truly, and I tell everybody, God called me to do it. I didn't want to do it. I just got kind of like, it just all opened up and I walked into it, and I don't plan anything. I don't plan for my next position. I don't plan for anything. I just, God tells me to do it, and I just go right along and do it. And that's the truth about me. I don't do this for the fame and the glory. I don't do this for a title. I do it because it's necessary. And I think I do it because I have 7 grandkids, and I want them to live in a world that's going to be better than I lived in. And that's the only goal.
Okay. So, what are your key policy priorities for the Texas Democratic Black Caucus this year?
So, 2, there's a near term and there's a long term. And thank you for asking that question. The near term is to get Colin Allred elected, flat out. Flat out, Colin Allred needs to be elected the first Black senator in the state of Texas, flat out. The far term is a little bit better for me, is to elect a Black chair to the Texas Democratic Party. Those are the 2 priorities that I have. And the third one, intermediate, is to organize the caucus into a entity that functions all the time. And that's kind of, those are the 3 things. That's the 3 priorities right there.
Okay. How does the Black Caucus work to ensure that Black Texans are adequately represented at both state and national levels?
Well, see, and this is unique about the Black Caucus, and this is what I'm aiming to try to change. The Black Caucus would only organize in state convention years, which okay, it's a great thing, don't get me wrong, but that gives you between March and June to actually organize. The plan now is to keep them organized 365, right? So we want to stay ready so we don't have to get ready. And I'll be honest, let's. So I haven't made a lot of friends along this journey, and I really don't care. Here's the reason why. Because at the last convention in El Paso, I put out an email and I told Black delegates to run from the floor for certain seats where there was no Black person running. And here's the reason why I did that. I did it because I wanted to keep them interested, I wanted to keep them educated, and I wanted to keep them mobilized. So it made a lot of people mad, and they thought, oh, I was coming for their job. And it wasn't that I was coming for anybody's job. It was to get, for the future, to get Black people involved. Because here's the thing, we're 11% of the population in the state of Texas. With 3.5 million people in the state of Texas, the most Black people in any state is in the state of Texas. So let's talk about that for a minute. We can't do it alone, but we can make a significant dent in the electorate if we show up and vote, because Texas is not a red or a blue state. It's a non-voting state. 9.4 million people that were registered to vote did not vote in the last gubernatorial election. Out of that, another 1.1 that were eligible to be registered didn't even register. So we take that, and Black people aren't voting the way we should in blocks that we should vote in. And if we did do that, we'd have a significant voice at the table. So keep us organized for the Black Caucus. We're going to stay organized 365. This is why we've created a website called TexasBlackDems.org, right? I need everybody to go there, TexasBlackDems.org, and register and sign up to be a part of this movement. Because what it's going to do is keep us informed. If you have events, send it to us. We're going to push it out to the rest of the world. If you have a candidate and you want to talk and whatever you have, we want to be the clearinghouse for Black people in the state of Texas. That's who we want to be. We want to stay organized all the time, because if we don't, that little small window to what we normally operate in between March and convention, which is normally June, it's not enough time to keep people. We're going to keep educating. We're going to put on events. And I know I'm talking, but I just got back from North Carolina last week, 2 weeks ago. And I was there with Miss Virgie Rollins, the chair of the DNC Black Caucus, and Miss Grace Carrington, the Southern Regional chair for the Black Caucus. And we went there, and I went and watched how North Carolina is organized. Under their leadership and they don't call themselves the Black Caucus, they call themselves in North Carolina the African American Caucus, under the leadership of Miss Colette Austin Powell. And they're organized in a way that is so great that I want to emulate that here in Texas. So I'm going to go to different states, and I'm going to talk to these Black Caucus chairs and see how they're organized, because I think I want the best product for Texas to be organized so we can be, as a lot of people say, the next Georgia or the next North Carolina, right? And elect Black people and get that. But here's the thing. You can't just do lip service. You're going to have to go boots on the ground, sit down, have conversations, watch what they do, watch how they're organized, and then come back and emulate that works best for Texas.
How is the caucus responding to the recent efforts to roll back voting rights, particularly as it affects the Black and minority communities?
Well, here's the thing. That's not a new tactic, right? It's an old tactic, right? And they've been doing it for years. So we partner with the NAACP. We partner with grassroots organizations on the ground, like-minded people, not only Black people, like-minded people who say this is wrong. So while I was in North Carolina, we got a private tour after our convention there of the Greensboro Lunch Counter, the museum. Talk about some moving stuff, to watch the history of what those 4 college students started, the movement they started, because they said enough is enough. And that's what we have to do as Black people here in Texas. Say acts like that, those same old tired acts of voter registration and hole in the polls and intimidation. We have to say enough is enough. And once we say enough is enough and we put our foot down, because we have a huge, and state of Texas, not even state of Texas, in the United States, Black people have a huge stake in the economic value of this country. We consume so many goods, but what do? Are we willing to sacrifice to get our point across? We have the blueprint. Dr. King, they all had the blueprint. They showed us, but we are not willing to sacrifice that and do that anymore.
What strategies in the Black Caucus using to increase voter turnout among the African Americans in Texas, particularly traditional underserved communities?
We got to meet them where they are. Meet them at the beauty shops, barbershops, right? We have to adopt barbershops and go in there and talk and just have barbershop talks. Those are real simple among Black men. Because why? Because the Black men, we're on the news every day, Ron. You and I both, we're on the news. They're talking about we ain't voting, we ain't doing this. But here's the funny part. I hate polls. You know why? Because I'm a Black man, educated, pay my taxes, go to work, do all those things. Ain't nobody ever called me for a poll. Has anybody ever called you for a poll, Ron? Nobody ever called us for a poll, right? So who are they polling to say that Black men are not going to do something? I need to know, because nobody I know, the people I run with, they haven't been polled. So who are these pollsters calling? Because they're not calling us. So what do we have to do? We have to meet them where they're on the barbershops, the beauty shops. We have to reach the youth. That's the key too. We have to make sure that Schools are doing their voter registration drives, the 2 a year by law, right? We have to do those things. We have to walk in the neighborhoods. We have to show these candidates, don't show up around election time. We need you all the time, right? If you're running, you got to show up and meet me, because guess what? I'm not going to vote for you if I don't know you, because I don't trust you. I got to look you in your eye and say, okay, Ron's a trustworthy guy. He came in my neighborhood once or twice. He sent a newsletter or whatever, and then I can vote for him. It's all about trust. You can't show up in, election season and think I'm gonna be on your team. That's not where it works. So what else is the caucus is going to do, right? Of course, we're going to do our digital stuff, because we have a full digital platform, and that's a good way to reach people who live in places that cannot be reached all the time. Digital is a way to go. But we also have to, and this is the key, and then I got this from Representative Sophonia Thompson. One night we were sitting around, and she said, Frederick, and she calls me Frederick. She doesn't call me, everybody calls me Nick. She calls me Frederick. Said, Frederick, sometimes we need to just shut up and listen. And I said, ma'am, what does that mean? She said, we need to just ask people what they want in a candidate. So what the caucus is going to do is we're going to have, and this is not anything groundbreaking, we're going to send out a survey of 3 questions to all of our people on our listserv. And we're going to say, hey, what do you want in a candidate? And then we're going to send this out to the various organizations and say, this is what people want in a candidate. Give the people what they want. Don't force feed them. Give them what they want, and then they will show up. Because voting is a 3-step process, right? It's voter registration, voter education, voter turnout. Well, here's the problem. The first one everyone does so well because it's easy. Voter registration, green forms, white forms, it's easy. But I want to see the matrix where the people who registered actually showed up.
Right.
Because that's the key. I can register 1 million people, but only if 5 show up. Was it worth the squeeze, right? And that's the key we have to do there. We have to do voter education, spend more time on voter education. And what does that mean? We got to put candidates in front of them that they like, which goes back to a lot of other issues of just throwing people. If, let's say, the date to turn in your application to file to be on the ballot is December 12th. We can't have people filing out of the woodwork on December 12th.
Mm-hmm.
That's bad business. One, we have limited resources as a community. So now I'm sticking somebody in your face who's going to run in a primary in 90 days or so, right? A little over 90 days. And I'm going to tell you they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I don't know them. Nobody knows them because they just popped out the woodwork. That's not right. It's not fair. And it's not a winning strategy. We have to build a candidate 2 years out. And this survey will help us build candidates 2 years out. Why? Because candidates to run, I ran before. It takes infrastructure. It takes money, your original seed money. It takes name worthiness. It takes a lot of things. But we can't continue just to fill a name on a ballot because we want to put a name in a ballot against the GOP. That's not going to work. Sometimes, and a lot of people don't like this idea. Sometimes it's okay to leave a name blank and just let the person run in a cycle unopposed, and then put your resources in a race that you know you probably can win. And then once you show people that you have the winning strategy, they will come. It's kind of like Field of Dreams. Build it and they will come. If you build a winning strategy, people will come and support and vote.
Wow. You talked about youth. So how does a caucus plan to engage young youth voters, and what challenges have you faced in that regard?
Well, so I'll tell you this. As far as the caucus, the team that's put together is doing a lot of this. I'm the oldest person, and I'm 53. That's key right there. We got a team of young folks with young ideas. So here's the thing. I'm part of that, what we call that sandwich generation that's supposed to get the young and the old together, right? Get them to the table, because everyone has use. I talked to a lot of young people, and I told them some of their strategies were a little harsh, and it was offensive to a lot of people who had been in the fight for a long time. And they just came in and they kind of did like the big kick in the door, waving the 4-4. And you can't do that, right? You got to sometimes come to the table with clean hands and clean motives and say, hey, look, I want your job, but I need you to show me how to do your job. And that's where the older folk need to kind of go, okay, this young fella, or young gal wants my job, and I trust them that they're going to keep the legacy. Because remember, once you get a certain age, you care about legacy. You know, Benjamin Franklin said it best, right? We're gone longer than we're here. And you want to be remembered for what you've done long after you're gone. And you don't want it to be you be an afterthought. And that's kind of what my generation has to do. Show both groups that they're both viable, where they both can come together, right? And then the youth can eventually take over, because succession plans are important. Mm-hmm. And that's something we don't do well as people of color. We don't do succession plans well at all. Man, you know, people leave us, and then now we got the infighting. And the infighting just sets us back and allows the other parties and the other people to come in and take what we built. There's nothing wrong with a succession plan. And if I'm in office and I want somebody that, you know, to take my spot, it's okay to say that. It's okay to let my wishes be known. There's nothing wrong with that.
That's true. So, how does the caucus work with other communities of color and progressive groups in Texas to build a coalition for broader political change?
I'll say this: I'm also the chair of the Veterans Caucus for the state of Texas, and what I'm trying to do is, one, that's another group of people. We need to get younger and more diverse, and not only with Black people, women. We just need to be more diverse. We have to work together for the common good. So we have to find those commonalities instead of what, you know, I don't agree with everything the Progressive Caucus does. That's fine. And that's cool. But I'm sure there's 3 things that we can get together and we can work together on. So I'm going to throw something else out there. You know, we have this big ad slogan, and say the Texas, turn Texas blue. It's a good slogan. It is. And I love it. It's great. I think if we're going to turn Texas blue, we got to go through East Texas, because I think those folk out there, those good folk out there in Longview and Marshall and all those places out there, no matter if you're Black, white, GOP, Democrat, they have more in common than anybody else in the state. So, you know, you live in Dallas, you live in Houston, depending on your zip code, you may not have anything in common with somebody from South Dallas and somebody from Highland Park. May not have a whole lot in common. But them people out in East Texas, they all want the same thing. They all need the same thing: infrastructure, clean water, clean air, good roads to drive on, good Wi-Fi so they can do their business, right? They all have, no matter what you are, no matter what you do, if you live out there, you kind of in the same circumstance. I think if we target that group of people out in East Texas more, a concentrated effort of dollars and resources, that's where we turn blue. So you asked, how do we help with community partners? We'll work with anybody, right? The caucus will work with anybody. Anybody that's like-minded, anybody that's about advancing, right? Not going backwards, was going forward, right? We'll work with anybody. And I'll leave it like that. We'll work with anybody. Same thing with the Veterans Caucus. We'll work with anybody, as long as you are trying to do those things. Point and take. So tomorrow night is the Colin Red, Ted Cruz debate, right?
Right.
Tuesday night, right? Big deal. And people ask me, so I had somebody ask me why, and I'm not going to mince words. I'm going to vote for Colin Red. I'm not going to lie. I am. Here's the reason why. Not because he's a Black man. Nope. I'm going to vote for him because he did 3 things that affect veterans. He got the VA hospital built in El Paso. He got the one in Garland redone, which I use. And he got the spine clinic put in Dallas. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. That's a guy that shows you he's willing to help you and your cause. As the Veterans Caucus chair, I sent a letter to just about every college veterans group in the state of Texas, and I invited them to come join us. I think I reached out to about 70 different colleges, and I still got about 70 more to go. And I'm trying to get them to join. The youth is the key.
Yes, it is. So, what are the challenges of the Black Caucus facing within the broader Texas Democratic Party, and how can the party better themselves to support Black leaderships?
How do I say this without getting me in a whole lot of trouble? Um, we representation matters. I think we have to show. I sit in meetings at the state level. I sit in meetings at the national level, and we literally have to show people that we're viable and we're relevant. I've sat in meetings at national levels, and they talk about Texas is not a battleground state. It's not, and it's not because it's all because we don't show up. Flat out, flat out. We need to show them that we're relevant. And how do we show them that we're relevant? By showing up and being more concerned. We have to be in spaces that make us uncomfortable. I think at times there are a lot of people in the state that are Black that feel disrespected by the state party. I'll say that. They feel disrespected at times. But I think we can bridge the gap. And I think it's not because they want to be disrespectful. I don't think they truly understand what concerns us. And I think we need to express what concerns us in a way that they understand. I think that's what it comes down to. I don't think that it's intentional. The disrespect is intentional. I think it's just, they just don't understand us at times.
Yeah. Okay. What do you see the biggest long-term challenges facing the Black community in Texas, and how does the caucus plan to address them?
Well, I think a couple things. One, you have Black people that live in affluent counties, and affluent addresses, and it's okay. And I understand people's bottom line. They get upset, and my boss is going to find out if I do this and that, and I get that. I'm not asking you to get out on the picket lines in March. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking you to help. If you find a candidate you like, support that candidate. Right? You can give them dollars. You can make sure you vote. You can phone bank for them. Because phone banking you can do anonymously. You can write postcards for them. Help out Black candidates. Right? Help them. They need help.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Help them out. They're limited resources. They need help. And I'll say this: a lot of Black folks get to a position in life, and they made it. And I'm air quoting made it. When I cast my ballot, I don't cast my ballot for myself. I cast my ballot with my mom in mind, who's on a fixed income, my grandkids, my wife's family in Jennings, Louisiana, right? Little old Jennings, right? To help maybe get them some more resources. Do I do well? Yes, I do. Do Black people in my neighborhood do well? Yes. But we have to remember that we all came from somewhere, and not many of us were born with silver spoons in our mouths. And we made it. We pulled ourselves up. We got up. Someone helped us out. We made it. But we also have to ask yourself, who else have I helped? And we can't forget that.
That is true. Yeah. So how does the Black Caucus envision a future of Black political power in Texas over the next decade?
Well, first, if we get Colin Oliver elected, on the national scene, we become relevant overnight, just like Georgia did when they elected my frat brother, Reverend Brother Raphael Warnock, right? They became relevant. Boom, just like that. Step one. Step two, we get a Black state chair. That's two. You get relevant that way, right? Three, we have to show up and vote and make our numbers incredible when we go out to the polls, right? Once again, we become relevant. That's how it becomes relevancy. And it's all on us. Like, we have to stop looking outside to help fix inside problems. We got to fix inside problems inside. and we can fix it. We have the tools. We have the people, right? I'll tell you this. I don't just speak words. I go and talk to everybody, right? I'm mentored by some of the greatest political minds in this state. And I'll tell you, Senator Royce West. I call Senator Royce West. He mentors me. Boom. Carl Davis, Mr. Carl Davis out of Houston, mentors me. Mr. Gene Collins mentors me, right? Miss Almeda Dent calls me and she gives me words and then she hangs up. I love her to death, but I'm listening. We mentor, and I take all that and I pass it on to the younger people that are working alongside me, because that is what we have to do. You have to get mentored by these people, these great minds who've been doing this, right? And I wouldn't, and the greatest person that got me into this, and I'll tell you a quick little who got me into this kind of got me in and kind of pushed me. And sometimes he makes me mad, but I love him to death because he pushes me to know him, Mr. Carroll Robinson. He pushes me in a way that I don't like to be pushed. He makes me uncomfortable, which makes me better. And then I surround myself with Sabrina, right? I surround myself with Tammy. I surround myself with Justin. I surround myself with those people who make me better. And that's what we have to continue to do.
Man, yes, I agree with you on that one. So, leading up to that, what inspired you to take on a leadership role in Texas Democratic Party and the Black Caucus? And what has been your most impactfulness achievement so far?
So I didn't want the job. I'll tell you that right now. I did not want the job. So I am still the secretary for the Coalition of Black Democrats. I was asked to do that, and I was like, okay. I figured if God said do it, I'll do it. I did it, won that seat, right? I ran, so I'm also on the state Democratic executive committee for CD3 for Collin County and Hunt County. So I sit on that. Then a friend of mine asked me, a good friend of mine who was the chair, asked me to be the vice chair of the Veterans Caucus. And he always told me, I'm going to step down and I'm going to give this to you. And I was like, shut up, man. I don't want this job. And then he stepped down and he gave it to me. So I don't ask for any of this, to say truth. My life was really simple. Go to the gym, work out, work in my yard. My life was simple. But like I said in the beginning, God called me to do this. I don't plan on doing this forever. I plan on a couple years and then passing this off to someone else younger who's going to take my spot in both of those organizations. We have to, it's just funny. It's funny how this all happens. I didn't want any of it. The Black Caucus, I just showed up at a couple of meetings when we were organizing. The first meeting, I didn't speak. I just listened, heard all the bickering and arguing and people. The next meeting I spoke, and I got a few phone calls from people saying, hey, we think you might be the right person to lead us in El Paso. And I was like, who, me? Who, me? Why me? And I was like, okay. And then I ran with it and it just morphs, right? Something else opens up and I go, let's do that. Let's try that. Let's figure this out. We can be better here. Let's do this. And then I talk it out with the team and we come up with a plan and we run with it. Nobody says we're perfect. And we always are looking for people to help us. We're always looking for feedback, right? And one thing is I take feedback. Just bring it. Tell me where I'm wrong. And I'll listen and I'll go, okay. And then I try to fix it. I try not to make the same mistake twice. But the caucus is on the rise, right? We have a plan to stay organized 365. We have a plan to try to get all the red elected. We have a plan to try to get a Black state chair. We have a plan to try to get more Black people involved and get them elected and statewide and do all this stuff, because 26 is going to come, right? And I would love to see a Black person on the ballot at the statewide position. I would love to see that.
Okay. I had a cough right there real quick. What advice would you give young Black leaders aspiring to enter the politics and be active in Texas?
Continue to fight. Go find a mentor. And I think that's something we don't do well at times. People wake up and go, I guess because of the generation we live in with TikTok and Snapchat and all that stuff, people think I can be an influencer just by being me. No one does it alone. Go find you a mentor. Find you someone that's older than you, who's a mentor, who's in that lane, and seek their advice. I think that's key. That's what I would tell them. Find you a mentor and then find your path.
Okay. What do you see the biggest barrier for voters turnout for Black Texans in this upcoming election?
In Black areas, and I'll say Houston, Dallas, the black areas where Black people live, not many barriers. I think they know their candidates. I think they know who they are. They're comfortable with those candidates, and they will show up in those places. I think in places where the candidates do not look like them, it's that they don't know the person. I think that is a big key, not knowing the person, not understanding the bigger issue. And, when I was in the military, we always talk about the big picture, right? And I think a lot of voters don't understand the bigger, broader picture because, and I get it, because when they look out their door, they see what they see. They don't understand the 5-year plan, the 10-year plan, whatever it is. And I think as leaders, sometimes we don't explain to them the 5-year plan, the 10-year plan. We don't explain it in the second and third order effects. I don't think we do a great job at that. I think we do okay, but I don't think we do a great job at it. I think we do a better job at explaining second and third order effects. If you do this, this will happen. If you don't do this, this will happen. And it's almost like a flow chart you got to make for people sometimes. But you have to make it in a way where you're not talking above their head. You're bringing it down to their level and being simplistic with it, right? And sometimes being simplistic means being sarcastic and being funny, but you have to break it down to people where they understand and they go, oh, that's why. It's just like if you watch a lot of these things, they talk about Donald Trump, right? And they polled these little kids, one of the news stations, on who they vote for. And one little girl said, well, he's just mean, right? That's simple for a little kid, right? He's mean. She doesn't know policy. She knows at that age level, all she knows is nice people and mean people, right? And sometimes it's that simple.
I agree. In multiple leadership roles you hold, Texas Democratic Party, a caucus and coalition, how are you working to combat voter suppression efforts to ensure that Black Texans can freely and fairly participate in the election?
I think you have to, it's kind of like the old saying, see something, say something. We don't know what we don't know. If you don't tell me that there's a problem, I don't know there's a problem that I need to fix. I think suppression comes in many forms. Some of it could be as easy as closing a local polling place. Some of it could be wiping people from the voting rolls. Some of it could be, we live in the state of Texas where guns are everywhere, where, you see a guy standing in front of the polls with a gun, which, in the state of Texas, he's not intimidating, but you see the gun on the hip and you're like, I ain't going in there. It comes in many forms, right? But we have to keep everyone informed about the tactics, and then we have to send, who we need to send into that place to go, hey, you can't do that. And it takes a little courage, right? Like I said, 2 weeks ago, I was in Greensboro at the Greensboro lunch counter. Those four men organized that sit-in, and then it grew to 800, right? Why? Because they had the courage. It's going to take courage to stamp out the darkness. The only thing, and Martin Luther King, and I'm paraphrasing, says, the only thing that'll wipe out the darkness is light, and the only thing that gets rid of hate is love, right? That's all and that's all we can do. We have to be courageous and we have to love. And I think once we do that, and then when I say love, we have to love ourselves first.
Yeah.
And what I mean by loving yourself, you have to have enough pride and love yourself to go, I want to make a difference for someone else. I love my people. I love myself. In order to do that, that will make the change that we need.
So what are your strategies are being used? What strategies, I should say, are being used to engage Black youth first-time voters in this election process?
So it's a good question. So a lot of it is simple sometimes. Sometimes it's as simple as I've been going to the polls since I was 3 years old with my mom. She used to take me to vote with her when I was 3 years old, and I'd watch it. I'd go in that little curtain and watch all the levers. I wanted to touch them. She wouldn't let me touch them. And she took me voting. She took me with her every time. So I understood the process. I understood the importance. And that's what we have to do as a family. We have to go back to the Black family in this one, right? We have to vote as a family. Show up. You know, we go to church as a family, right? Souls to the poll was one of the things that they wanted to target and attack. Why? Because they understood the importance of it, right? The people that didn't want us to vote understood the importance of us voting as a block, as a family, showing up together. You know, we can show up for Thanksgiving together. We can show up to Christmas together, Easter Sunday. We can do all those things. We can get together and go vote together and make a day of it, right? On Sunday after church, go vote real quick and then go to brunch with your family members. Go with your community members. See, that's what we're talking about. And then we go into the schools and we can't tell them who to vote for, but we can tell them the importance of voting. And this is why we need to add civics back into school. Civics is gone, right? When we were growing up, Ron, civics was there. We had Civics 101, which taught us the importance of voting, how to vote, the issues and all that kind of stuff. We went away from that. That was very targeted by the State Board of Educations, right? That was very targeted to get rid of that. Because guess what? If I'm uninformed, it doesn't matter to me. When I become informed, things matter. So we have to target the youth in those ways, right? We start with using the resources we have, using our families, right? And then we poll them and find out what issues matter to them and direct them to candidates that meet those needs. If you care about Gaza and Israel and all that stuff, find them candidates that support that and that's their champion. If it's women's reproductive rights, you find them candidates that they like that. You get them involved. Because here's the thing. If you're involved with a candidate, you're probably going to go vote for that candidate. If you give money to a candidate, you're probably going to go vote for that candidate. Why? Because you've invested time and resources into them. And that's what we have to teach these young people. You know, we have to use them for what they are. They use TikTok and Snapchat and all that. Let them make TikToks and Snapchats and get their peers to go vote. Ask their opinion. Don't silence them. Don't bring them to the table, tell them they have a seat, and don't let them talk. Because that's wrong. If you bring them to the table, give them a plate, a fork, and a knife, and let them eat.
Yes. So, what roles does grassroots organizations play in encouraging voter registration, turnout in Black communities, and has this been effective in Texas?
I think grassroots is the key. And I use the analogy I tell everybody: grassroots. What's the strongest part of the tree? The root, not the leaves, right? The roots are. That's where we should put 90% of our investment into the grassroots organizations to go out and do voter education. Registration, here's the thing, once again, 3 steps: voter registration, voter education, voter turnout, right? Voter registration is great. It's easy. Voter education is hard because here's the thing, you have to know what they want. Got to give the people what they want. That's what the song says, right?
Yeah.
That's what and if they don't know, if we don't know what they want, we don't know what to give them. And then we just keep showing up with them, telling them, oh, this is the biggest cause. And the people are like, not in my neighborhood, it's not. Think about it. If I tell you that Israel and Gaza is the biggest issue, and you have broken street lights and potholes, that's not your issue. And we got to stay away from national issues. That's another thing. We got to get issues back to local. That's what grassroots means, local, right? The local. I'm from New York City. We have express trains and we have a local train, right? The express train gets you there fast. The local train shows you the true New York City because it stops everywhere.
Mhm.
We need to get back on that local train that stops everywhere and talks to everybody about everything. Because the national issues are the express train. That's easy. CNN, Fox, MSNBC, they tell you all the big national stuff that you want to hear, and it's juicy red meat. But the local CNN ain't gonna tell you that your property tax is about to go up. CNN ain't gonna tell you that that pothole ain't gonna get fixed. CNN ain't gonna tell you that that street light ain't gonna get fixed. CNN's not gonna tell you that you ain't gonna get a Kroger in your neighborhood or HEB in your neighborhood. CNN's not gonna tell you all those local things that affect your everyday. That's why I tell everybody the presidency is a great election. It's symbolic, it's great. The president can do a lot of things. But your city council, your state legislature, they affect your everyday.
Yes. So, what are the most effective ways activists and community organizations can mobilize Black voters, especially in the rural and underserved areas?
Show up, go to them, meet them where they are, go to them, knock on the door, go walk, go get your shoes dirty out in East Texas where the roads aren't great, right? And the infrastructure is horrible, right? Go out there and knock on those people's door and say, hey, did you see my ad on the internet? And they look at you and go, well, my internet's spotty.
Mm.
When I was running, I knocked on, when I ran for county chair, I knocked on 5,000 doors. And I went to the east side of McKinney, right? The east side of McKinney, right? I went over there and knocked on some doors. And I tell you, brother, I was brokenhearted what I seen over there. It was heartbreaking to see people that looked like me living in the way they were living. And the most of them said, well, I'm gonna vote for you because no one's ever came over here and knocked on my door. It's that simple. No one goes to these places. Why? Because politics has become so infused with money. And these people don't have money, right? They don't have money to give you. But what they do is they're citizens. So I served in the Army for 23 years and I fought for this little thing called democracy. I fought for stupid people. I fought for smart people. I fought for people that hated me because of my color. I fought for people who hated me because of my gender. I hated for people who hated me because of whatever they reason they wanted to hate me. But it was all in the name of democracy, and I believe in democracy. And everyone should be a part of it, whether you're rich, poor, Black, white, red, green, orange, Hispanic, whatever religion you are, everyone has a place in democracy. And that means sometimes showing them and going to them and reminding them where their place is in democracy.
Mm. Wow. What are the most pressing issues you believe Black voters in Texas are concerned about heading into the election?
Well, I'm gonna say this: until I do the survey, I don't know. I'm gonna speculate. I'm gonna speculate right now because I'm gonna do a survey that I want them to tell me what their issues are, right? Because I think it's, if you go East Texas, it's infrastructure. If you go in the rural and in the suburban counties, it's gonna be property tax. No one wants their property taxes up, right? Jobs, of course, for Black people are always a number one thing. The economy is always big for us, right? We want jobs. We want a seat at the table, right? A. Philip Randolph, when he threatened to do the first march on Washington in the early 1940s, right? He told FDR he wanted what? He wanted some of these military contracts, right? He understood the money in the government, the military industrial complex, right? He understood that. Economy for us is a big deal. We give out more money than comes into our neighborhoods. Black women in hair care products, right, is a $1 billion industry. But if you look at most of these hair care facilities and stores, they're not owned by people that look like them. So where's that money actually going? Right? We care about those industries. Black women get their nails done. Most of those industries aren't owned by people that look like them. We spend, the money should come back to us. So I think economy would be a big one, but you can't just lump us all together, right? Infant mortality rate. I'd be derelict if I didn't say that, right? Black women have the highest infant mortality rate in the world, right? Why? Because access to healthcare. And those are the things that matter, right? When you send, as Black men, when we send our wives and our daughters to the hospital to have babies, we shouldn't be rolling the dice and hoping they come home. It should be guaranteed they're going to come home with a baby. Not, will they live? Those are the things that are going to be important. And I think until we get a seat at the table, and then we learn to eat at that table, and we learn to exercise our right at that table, we're going to keep getting the same old as is, because we keep doing the same old that we're doing.
Yes. So what impact do you think the legislative changes, particularly regarding voting laws in Texas, will have on on Black voters?
Well, think about what they did in Harris County after the last election, right? They stopped 24-hour voting. They stopped drive-up voting, right? Which didn't only affect Black people, it affects working class people. The third shift, right? I can vote if I work the third shift by just driving up, do a little hut, casting my ballot, and keep it moving, right? Access to voting. We should make voting simpler, right? It should be a national holiday, right? Election day should be a national holiday. Oh yeah, where do they do that at? In Puerto Rico, right? It should be a national holiday where we go out and take the day off and we show up to vote. Why? Because they understand if people have a day off. Now, will most people go vote? Who knows? But let's try it. Let's see what happens. We need to do those type things to make it easier for people to vote, not harder. And, you know, if you talk to most election administrators in this country, the ones with common sense, they all say our elections are safe. And these are not just the Democratic ones, these are the Republican ones too, that said our elections are safe. We have no voter issues. Why do we keep messing with voter issues? Why? Because it makes good headlines. Everyone's scared of the boogeyman, right? Maslow said this thing. There's 4 things that people want: social, security, physical, and higher, right? Maslow the Great, right? He says that. Security. If I feel safe, if you make me feel safe, then I think I am safe. If you tell me that something's wrong and you're my leadership, I believe something's wrong. And I'm going to look to you to fix it. And when I tell people this, I tell my students this. There's this little thing called TSA. Ron, when you and I were kids, you could walk grandma all the way up to her gate and watch her fly on the friendly skies, take off.
Yeah.
9/11 happened, and we got this little agency called TSA because we needed it, right? We needed it. Stuff happened. I want to feel safe. Even if that means I have to show up to an airport an hour early, even if that means I can't watch grandma go all the way to her gate without getting a special pass to walk her to her gate, right? I'm okay with that because I want to feel safe.
Yeah. Wow. So how important is it for Black voters to see candidates and elected officials who reflect their community? And do you think the current slate of candidates achieve that?
It's important. And I wouldn't just say Black folks. It's important for any community. I work with the Southeast Asian community, and they want to see candidates that look like them or people that have their common background and culture and understand them. That's any culture. And so Black people aren't just, that's not a thing for us only. We want people that understand us, and we want people that are going to come knock on our door and talk to me and try to understand me and listen to me. That's truly important to us. We have to have that. What was the second part of your question?
The candidates, did they achieve that?
So it depends on what level you're talking about. I think at the national level, I think Kamala Harris is doing a great job. I think she's doing a really good job. I think she's trying to be everywhere. She can't be everywhere. I get it. I think she's doing a great job. Now, at the local level, we're doing good. This is where we control things, and we could do better. I think we're doing good. but we because we don't control the national stuff, but we can control the local stuff. We can control how our candidates are portrayed, where they are, and what they're doing, and who they talk to. We can control a lot of that, and I don't think we do a great job of it. I think the candidates do a good job. I think they're doing the best that they can with the tools that they have. But once again, we need to start putting resources into these candidates, and that goes back to building a candidate based off of what the voter wants, and then once we put a winning product out, then outside resources will be more apt to put in to us to show us that we can win.
Mm. How can leaders in the Black community ensure that elected officials remain accountable in their communities they serve, particularly Black voters?
Oh, that's easy. So I'm a proud fraternity man. In my fraternity, every year we go down, not every year, excuse me. During the legislative days in Austin, we go down one day a year, and we go and talk to our legislative body. When I was in one of the school districts I was in, we took students down to talk to their legislatures. We got you got to show up. Don't knock on the door. Hey, I'm here. Let's talk. Let's set up office calls. Let's set up office visits. And then they know you're accountable. When you don't show up, they get free reign to do what they want to do. Because they go, I'm in office, no one cares. I'm going to do what I want to do. So, I'm going to do it. We have to organize. We have to go down. If you ever go down to Austin, you'll see different groups down there. You see the teachers unions down there. The AFL-CIO will be there. The NAACP will be there. LULAC will be down there. On any given day, you can go down to the Capitol, and there's a different organization down there making their voices heard. And we have to do that. And the caucus will do those things. We will have caucus days when we show up, and we will set appointments with whoever your representative is or your state senator is, and you'll set up an office visit, and we'll go in. And the ones that decline the visits continually, that's telling. You don't have time. I have time to drive down to Austin to see you, but you don't have time to see me, your constituent.
Right.
That's telling, right? See, right there, that's telling. And then we need you to go out and tell that story. Be like, hey, when you're in the barbershop, when you're in the beauty shop, when you're in the grocery store, be like, hey, I went down to see so-and-so 3 times. I made appointments to see so-and-so 4 times, and they couldn't make time to see me. They couldn't make a phone call. They couldn't do a Zoom call with me. That's telling. But that takes courage. That takes courage out of your time, out of your day to go down, take a day off, and go do those things. Organize your local YMCAs, your Boys and Girls Clubs, and all those things. Take those kids down there to show them the process. That's how we get the youth involved. And I had a young lady, I'm going to tell you, I was part of a school district. We took a little girl. She went down there and she lit into a state senator. Whew! She lit into her. This little 7th grade girl. No, she was 8th grade, excuse me. She lit into this state senator. And I was proud. I was sitting in the back like, you go, girl. And she had her arguments, man. She was ready. It wasn't a fly-by-night. And she was talking about special education in schools. That was her, because her brother was in that population, and she wanted to know what more resources were going into special education to help her brother.
I like that. So has your approach to activism changed over the years, especially with the rise of social media and going online organizing?
So funny thing, I didn't have Facebook till 3 years ago, about 3 years ago. I didn't do social media. I just did. And my wife would always crack jokes about me. She said, he got something to hide. And I was like, no, I didn't see the value in it. I thought it was nonsense, and I ain't gonna lie. I see the error in my ways, and I see the value. I see you can reach a lot of people in a quick way to get your message out, but it has to be formulated in a way that's just, and you can't oversaturate it, and it can't be formulated in a way that demeans or degrades or hurts people, but educates. And I think that's responsible use of it, educating people.
Okay. So how do you envision Black political power evolving in Texas over the next decade? And what roles does this election play in that?
Once again, olive red elected, right? Black leaders that are currently in place have a succession plan. And then once we get a person who's at that caliber, keep promoting them up to go to the next level. We can't get stagnant. We have to keep pushing. We have to keep pushing. We have to keep pushing into spaces where we normally wouldn't fit and run. And we have to run for those positions. And then when we see a person in that position, and if they're good, and I say the word good, right? We have to support them because, and then I'm going to throw that Mark Robinson out in North Carolina. He's one of those people that, says crazy things, Black Nazi, and, all this crazy stuff he says. He's not a good Black candidate. He's not. I mean, it's funny. I was on a panel in North Carolina with his cousin by family, right? And the guy told me, he's like, yeah, he's my cousin by family. My sister's married, and he said, I don't support him, but we have to have good candidates. And that you don't get good candidates by hoping for them. You have to build them. You have to build them. And then like I said, the succession plan's got to be in place. Because if you have a succession plan, if I know I'm next in line, I'm getting myself ready. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
Okay, in what way do you think the political challenges faced by Black Texans differ from those faced by Black communities at the national level?
Issues in North Carolina are not the issues in Texas. Issues in New York are not the issues in Texas. Texas is unique, right? In the inner cities in America, a lot of them like New York, Chicago, guns are an issue, right? Guns are not really an issue in Texas. I mean, I'm not going to say not an issue, but because of our laws, everyone can carry almost here.
Mm-hmm.
So we should be can you talk gun safety? Of course. I don't think as a soldier, because once you're a soldier, you're always a soldier. No civilian should carry the same basic load of ammunition or more than I carried when I was on the streets of Iraq or Afghanistan, right? No, there's no reason why you should carry, basic load for a soldier is 210 rounds. The Allen shooter here had 400 rounds. Make it make sense. I was fighting democracy. What are you fighting in Allen Mall? You shouldn't have the same ammunition, the level that I had when I was fighting terrorists. This doesn't make sense. I think there are times when some of the issues are like infant mortality rate. We can all agree on that one, right? Infrastructure looks different in every place. Some people it's, internet. Some people it's electricity. Some people it's water. It depends. I think, and this is why having, and I'm going to give a shout out to Miss Virgie Rollins, the chair of the Black Caucus for the DNC. She has a vision of creating. She has a platform that we will create. That she has that kind of ties it all together and brings us in as one. And as leaders, we have to go to, and I'm probably going back to North Carolina next month for another visit, by the way, to go down and watch them in action, how they do their state meetings. So I'm probably going to go down to their state meeting next month. And then she's going to come here. Colette's going to come here and watch what I do in here. And that's how we become one. By taking lessons learned from each other and making that plan. And I would be wrong not to put this out. If you're a veteran and you're Black, white, whatever, young, we want you. TexasDemVets.org. Come that. TexasDemVets.org. We need you too. Because once we get into those other spaces, those other caucuses, and we start to get in there, the disability caucus, right? If you're a part of the environmental caucus, we need people of color in all those places, right? And we need all those caucuses to have people that look like us, so we can have a voice in there. So it's not the same old as is.
Okay. So how does the political climate in Texas compare to the national trend, particularly regarding the issues of voting rights, education, healthcare for Black people?
I'll say this about education. Let me start with education. Unfortunately, vouchers are probably going to pass this next session. But here's my question to all the Black leadership in the legislatures. What's our plan if we know it's already going to pass? Let's stay ready. If we know vouchers are going to pass, what's our plan? How do we get in on it? How do we make it best for our young kids? Are we going to start charter schools with those vouchers so we can educate our own? Are we going to do it? Is that the plan? Or are we just going to sit back and wait for the vote to happen and then go, oh my God, they did vouchers. What are we going to do? What's the plan? We know it's probably going to happen. And I'm not telling you to leak the plan to the public but let us know that, hey, we have a plan. We're putting things in place. Silence is scary. When it comes to healthcare is a national problem in this country. I'll say a big thing with the healthcare in this state is get rid of the governor. He leaves money on the table that would help people in this state. Not only Black people, white people, Asian people, Hispanic people. But we have to amplify that and show them where it could have helped them. The VA hospitals, Colin Allred, what did he do? He got the El Paso one built. The Garland one is being refurbished. Used to be an old Baylor Scott and White. He got the spine clinic put in, right? That's helping veterans. That ain't just helping Democratic veterans. That's helping all veterans. So when we look at national issues, we take the national issue and we break it down to a spot into an issue that reflects on us. Just like I said, healthcare, if I go to veteran hat, I go, look, there's a guy over here who's building hospitals and getting us things, calling out there, right? If you go healthcare, you go, well, the governor left $11 million on the table, or $11 billion on the table for Medicaid and Medicare and all those things that could have helped us in this state. See? Healthcare is the big banner. How do we take that and make it ours, right? For Black people, infant mortality rate, access to healthcare for women. Women who go, Black women, we need to invest in education and STEM, right? So we can have more doctors that look like the people that are serving them. Because a lot of times Black women go to the doctor and they get told that they're exaggerating. And then they go home and die. So, but if they have a doctor that looks like them and understands, well, she's probably not exaggerating. Think about the lives that are going to be saved. We talk about infrastructure or the economy and jobs, right? Economy is a big word. Okay, how does that affect me in my neighborhood? Well, I want you to open a business, small business. A lot of Black people, most open small businesses. How do we give them access and education to open small businesses? Not just barbershops and beauty shops, but other things in the tech fields and all those innovative things that we could be doing. Such as you're a business owner of this radio station, right? How do we get more young Black people to start? So I was listening to something the other day and it was very unique. Me and my wife, we were discussing this. And it was whether Kamala Harris should go do the Breakfast Club with Charlamagne the God, right? That was the whole argument, right? I was listening on the radio. And I said, wow, who else in not his age range, but the age range he's reaching, there's nobody in that space that reaches the young Black youth like he does. Nobody else. So if she wants to reach that demographic, she almost has to go on that show. Could she handle herself well? Yes. But she almost has to go to him because he has a stranglehold on that demographic. Who's in the pipeline to be that next person to be able to talk so he has competition? Nobody. right now. And we racked our brains trying to find somebody. Like who else has that lane? DL Hughley's a little older. Ricky Smiley's older. They're falling into the Tom Joyner lane now, right? They don't have that younger demographic like that anymore.
Yeah.
Who is
it? Good question. It's a good question. What are the key similarities between the issues Black communities in Texas faces and those faced by Black communities across the nation?
Well, similarities of healthcare, like I said, healthcare, economics, infrastructure, gun violence. I mean, we all have the same similarities, but the problem is how we sell it. You know, you can sell it one way in Chicago and New York, but you have to sell it different in Texas. And I think that's where Ms. Virgie Rollins, she has the plan at the national level, and the state chairs need to come and bring it back to their teams and craft, along with other leaders at the legislative Black caucuses in their state, the NAACPs, and we come together and do a roundtable, and we come with ways to craft it so we're all saying the same thing. Because here's the thing. In order for people to vote for you, you have to reach them. It's like 8 to 10 times now. In order for people to understand your message, you have to get it to them 8 to 10 times. And if they hear it from various different ways in various different forms, then it starts to sink in, and then it becomes their truth. And once it becomes their truth, it becomes their reality. And once it becomes their reality, they become invested in it. And once they become invested in it, they will act upon it.
Okay. So, do you see more progress being made at the state or federal level when it comes to advancing the interests of Black Texans?
It starts at home. We have to do it here. We can't look for Big Brother to help us. It has to be homegrown. If we keep looking for big brothers to throw us a lifeline, we're gonna drown. We have to build our own boat. You know why? Because we are going to build a boat that works for us, that floats in our water. If we allow someone else to come in and build our boat, it may not float in the Brazos River. It may not float in the Rio Grande. It may not float in the Red River. It may not float in the Gulf. It's going to sink because they don't understand who we are. Only we understand who we are and what our needs are. And if we keep looking for Big Brother to throw us a lifeline, it's not going to happen. And we're going to drown. It's us.
Wow. So, how do you think Black leaders in Texas can bridge that gap between local and national politics, be effective to create a meaningful change?
Well, we have to go sometimes. Like you said, I went to North Carolina, right? I know Representative Ron Reynolds, he goes to DC. He goes to the places. We have to go there, and they have to know that we are viable. They have to go, and we have to speak our truths to them. And they have to understand that what the national media says sometimes or doesn't say is not always true, or here's what's really going on. Here's what boots on the ground are saying. So, and that's a prime example. When I was in the Army, I was watching one day, I was in Kosovo, and I was watching a mortar bomb somebody. And I'm calling in a radio. And the guy on the radio is telling me I'm not seeing what I'm seeing. He called me basically a liar. The next day, he got fired. Brigade commander fired him because the brigade commander said you never, ever question what a person who's watching it is telling you what they're seeing. So what that means is we need to go, and the boots on the ground, eyes on the ground, seeing what we're seeing. We need to go to Washington. We need to go to Chicago. We need to go to all these other places, wherever the meetings are, and we need to be at that table and say, hey, this is the needs of the Texans, of people with Black Texans or in Texas in general. And there are leaders here that are doing it. Jasmine Crocker's doing a great job of doing it. Ron Reynolds doing a great. Senator Royce West, we all do great jobs of it when we go out and we make our voices heard and we make our issues louder. We let them know that, hey, this is what we need, and this is why we need it, and this is how we're going to use it once we get it. And that's what we have to keep doing. The leadership has to do that. But in order for the leadership to do that, the leadership has to be armed with what? The info from the streets. We have to go back to the neighborhoods, and we have to get the info to take with us outside so we can understand. And we can, inside, we can get together with our collective groups, right? Our allies, as Ms. Sabrina would always say, our allies, and get together with our allies and do what? strategize and come up with these plans that are going to work. Because we can't keep doing the same old, same old.
Right. Right. Okay, I got one final question for you.
Okay.
Do you foresee national political issues like voting rights or police reform gaining more traction in Texas, or do you think the state will continue to chart its own path?
So there are two bills before Congress right now, the U.S. Congress, that if they pass, we change things. The George Floyd Policing Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, right? So we just need to champion those. Literally, we need to educate people. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. Those are there already. Just champion those, and that'll make some changes, right? Champion those two bills right there. John Lewis Voting Rights Act, or the For the People Act, and the George Floyd Policing Act. Champion those. Keep the pressure up on those. And then once we get those passed, you'll see change. We don't have to reinvent the wheel on those two issues right there. They're already done. We just have to get people to get behind them and start to voice their opinion about it, and not let the national media bury those things with what they want to tell us, because those are important to our community.
I want to go back on what you said at the beginning. When you're talking about candidates, they need to get out there and run for office 2 years before the election. I'm listening to what you're saying about that, and you're right about that, because I see a lot. I don't see names that don't come out probably 6-7 months before the election. I never knew they were even running. I agree with you on that. So in order for us to get more Blacks in office, we got to start early, like you said, 2 years in advance. This is what we're running for. Start building that platform then. So are we going to start doing that? Are you going to influence people to start doing that?
Yes, sir. That's to my last dying breath. That's what I'm gonna keep doing. I think, like I said, when we have people sign up on the last day who've never even showed up at a meeting, right? Ain't never been to the barbecue, ain't never came to the barbecue, right? And then they show up on the last day and go, "Hey, I'm here." That's a disservice to everyone. It's a disservice to the resources that we have. Our resources are limited. I'm not only talking money, I'm talking about people, time, effort. That's a disservice. And here's the thing. In my county, and I'm going to give my county, I live in Collin County. Our NAACP has this program. It's called, and let me get the name right, because the president, she'll kill me because I always get it wrong. Ready to lead, prepared to serve, prepared to see, ready to serve. So basically what they do is, for about 8 months, they get people together and they bring them into a cohort. And say you, Ron, want to run for city council, or just you're not even want to run for it. You just may be interested in it. So you come to this cohort, you'll go to the city council meetings in your city for a whole year. You'll come back and you'll report every month to the cohort what you heard, what you liked, what you didn't like, those kind of things. Once it's all done, after it's all done, the president of NAACP in this county, her name is Miss June Jenkins, she will then go to the mayors and the city councils in those cities and said, "Hey, Ron been in your city council meetings for the whole year. So when Ron's name comes up to be on a board or commission," because those are key, right? Boards and commission. Why don't you want Ron? Ron's invested. Ron knows what's going on. He's been there a full year. He's been listening, right? Ron don't want to run for city council, but he want to be on a board of commission because he wants to make a difference in his community, right? So Ron shows up there, and then if they deny Ron, we're like, well, why Ron can't be on the board of commission? He's been coming to the city council meetings for a full year. He got notes. See, that's how we got to do it. You start small. Start with the boards and commissions and work your way up. So go back to your education question. I'm gonna give another plug to our NAACP because they're doing some great things. During the summer, they did this thing called Freedom School. During the summer, it was kind of summer school for Black kids, where they brought them together and they had a lesson, a curriculum, and they came up with this thing called Freedom School, where they taught the kids things about Black history that they weren't going to learn in school. Community. See, all that right there goes back to what? Community.
Yes.
Taking care of ourselves from within ourselves. That's the plan. That's the key.
Yes, it is. Okay, Sabrina, you want to chime in on anything?
I just want to thank Chairman Nickens for coming on and educating us on what we are needing to look for and look forward to with this upcoming election and what the Black Caucus has to offer. So I just want to thank you for coming on. But I did want you to kind of expound on the different positions where people can volunteer, get involved, but also run for an office within the Black Caucus from the local county level all the way up, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. And some of them are paying jobs and some of them are non-paying. And a lot of people don't know a lot about these jobs. And I'll start with the Justice of the Peace. Justice of the Peace is a job that makes 6 figures in most counties. And they deal with truancy, traffic court, landlord disputes, right? And guess what? You don't have to be a lawyer to run to be Justice of the Peace. So if you have an inkling of, you like the law and it's interesting to you, look into Justice of the Peace. City council. We all know what city councils do. But I would say this, before you run for city council, go and try to be on a board or commission, because that's your way. That's a kind of a pathway to the city council, boards and commissions, because it gets your name within your city. Because most city councils, their races are won by less than 500 votes. Then there's what else? There's Commissioner's Court. Commissioner's Court, another job, 6 figures. There's no true pathway, but I would say a pathway to be a county commissioner. So if you think about it, the judge of each county is the governor of each county. They run and they decide where all your money goes. The judge of the county actually has a commissioner, has a court of commissioners that works with him or her, and they decide the resources where they go within your county. Why is that important? Get on those county boards, right? Or get on your city council, because those are pathways to the commissioner's court. Start going to those commissioner court meetings, because sometimes, and I'll tell you, in my county, my judge is pretty sorry. The meetings will last 30 minutes. What? You're in a county of 1.4 million people. How does your meeting last 30 minutes? Y'all got to talk more than that. I don't know. What else? Then within the party, the Democratic Party. So there's the State Democratic Executive Committee. They decide the rules and the bylaws and how the state Democratic Party operates. Now, and I'll say this, if you're listening and you happen to be a Republican, the Republican side has that too. Go get on theirs too, because they do the same thing, right? They do the same thing. Within the Democratic Party, like at conventions, there's the nominations committee. Got to get on that, because if we're going to elect the Black chair, we need people in the room that are going to get that person out of nominations. Rules committee sets the rules for the party. Resolutions helps flow the resolutions that come in. Platform gets the platform committee, all the platforms that go to the national, right? Those are the things that we have to do. Everybody always looks like the glamorous job, state legislature, which in this state is weird because they don't get paid. They get paid very little, and it's a part-time job. You got to have, and that's another thing we have to do. We have to figure out a way maybe to pay those people more so common folk can run for office, because a lot of these offices don't pay money, but they take a lot of time. And if you have a full-time job and you're a working class person, it's almost impossible to run for these positions and still maintain a lifestyle. So, we have to figure out how to give these people more money so common everyday folk can run, and then they can still earn a living and not be destitute. Everyone wants the sexy jobs, as I'm going to call them, the governor, the lieutenant governor, the big time jobs. Those jobs are great and they're fancy, but there's only one governor. There's a whole bunch of people in the House of Representatives, a whole bunch of people in the state Senate. There's a whole bunch of city councils. There's a whole bunch of those jobs. There's a whole bunch of boards and commission people. There's a whole lot of those jobs. But everybody wants the glamorous jobs because we're chasing titles. We got to stop chasing titles, and we got to put the work in. Titles mean nothing, right? You got to put the work in. But those, to answer your question, Sabrina, those are some of the jobs you need to get in. County party chairs, right? Sabrina, you're a former county party chair, right? Those. Nobody want to be county party chair because they don't get paid. They get all the grief, all the headache, and no money, right? No, like that's But those are the jobs we have to start to target if we're going to truly make a difference.
And I also want to mention, as Ron is an election judge in Barron County. And that is something that people can also participate in, as well as being an election judge or the election clerk. And those are paid positions. And Ron, you had asked about how can we get our youth involved. We do have an opportunity to have student election workers.
16.
Starting at the age of 16, they can come and work the election. There is a form they will need to have their parents sign and the school to sign, either their principal or school counselor. It will be an excused absence. So this is a great opportunity for them to literally learn on the job and also get compensated for it. And that might even inspire individuals to get more involved and then even possibly run for office.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a good one.
Yeah. That's right. Well, everybody, this has been enlightening. I mean, Nick, you came with it, brother. You came with it. And we appreciate your being so candid about it. And somebody typed in here, said, that's real talk. And that's what people need to hear, that real talk. Nothing fluffed. You know, just you got to be real, because I call this the election of the century. I don't know who else is calling it. That's what I'm calling it, because it's going to be some changes coming on. Whoever wins or lose, somebody's not going to like it. Somebody's going to love it. But the whole idea, I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent. Don't talk to me if you didn't vote. Make sure you get out there and vote, because that's more important to me than anything else. Because I always say this thing. I don't know why I'm going to say it again, but I'm going to say it. I always say this. James Brown had a song that came out, and he said, like a dull knife, just can't cut. Just talking loud, ain't saying nothing. And that's how I see it. The ones that talk loud the most are the ones that are not doing nothing. That's just my opinion. So, all right. We appreciate y'all being on. Oh, boy. And I got tune in to Anthony Taylor. He's coming on as soon as we sign off. He's coming on. So we're going fast furious today. So I appreciate everybody coming on.
Well, y'all stay blessed.
Thank you for having us, Ron.
Stay blessed and go out and vote. Go out and vote. Show them we can do
Black Texans vote 2024. Let's get it. It's go time.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for watching Texas in Color. Please tune in every Wednesday at 11 a.m. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification button so you'll be notified each and every time we go on live.